This image here, it got me to think, how does Godzilla get his energy? He eats radioactive material, or more as absorbs it. But how does that work? Today, I will tell you how a nuclear reactor works, and by the end, we will apply that to Godzilla. How does a nuclear reactor work? Well, it's kind of, a bit of a glorified steam engine. You get a radioactive material, like uranium, thorium, just if it's radioactive in general, if you think of it, and you have that heat up, it'll be in a cooling chamber full of water. That water will boil and turn into steam and turn a turbine, which creates energy. Then that steam will cool back down in the water and return to the cell, where it'll continue to cool down the uranium, while in the meantime making steam and repeating the process. Please keep in mind that's how a light water reactor works. There are different types of models, and this is just the one most commonly used. Most other nuclear reactors, such as the pressurized water reactors and the boiling water reactors, follow the same model of using heated radioactive elements to boil water. However, the pressurized water reactors have them at a higher pressure, and the boiling water reactors have them at a lower pressure. There is, however, a type of reactor that does not use water, and it is called an advanced gas-cooled reactor. It uses graphite as the neutron mediator and carbon dioxide as the coolant. Surprisingly, Indiana has tried to have nuclear power plants before, but they costed way too much. But if Indiana had the money to do it, I think nuclear power plants would be good for the community. I have heard lots of complaints about there not being enough options for energy usage in the area, and electric bills costing a lot. With how nuclear energy is cheaper, this could save a bunch of people money in the area. And while discussion is going on about getting Indiana its own nuclear power plant, it would be good for those in Indiana who have large electric bills and are looking for a cheaper alternative. I think a nuclear power plant would be good along the Ohio River, because it gets a nice flow of water every year, and it would be close to the Ohio Falls, which could help collaborate with the nuclear plant, so it could be a collaborative effort. That, and it's a good idea to keep your power plant in general close to a source of water. However, nuclear power plants, while they do seem good, do have some cons. For example, they are expensive to maintain, and there is the possibility of a meltdown, which is not good, but they also produce very cheap energy for the people who are going to use it, and they are cleaner than coal or fossil fuels. Another disadvantage of a nuclear power plant is the radioactive waste from used cells of radioactive material. This stuff usually is in those yellow barrels that you see on TV, and they are buried deep underground, and they are very dangerous. They are literal cancer in a barrel. Sadly, we cannot talk about nuclear power plants without talking about the disasters. If you are interested in anything nuclear at all, then you know about Chernobyl and Fukushima. These were horrible disasters where the power plant melted down. Chernobyl due to air, and Fukushima due to the earthquakes happening at the time. Both areas around those power plants cannot be lived in, and you are not allowed to go within a radius of the plant. And one interesting fact about Chernobyl is that when the meltdown happened, there was a blue glow coming from the plant. Sound familiar? Quick warning, I am about to show some images of what happened to the animals around these power plants when they melted down, and some of these images might make people uncomfortable, so if you're not wanting to see this, then skip ahead. The cost to build a nuclear power plant is about $4 billion. And the price of maintenance can vary depending on the plant, ranging from a few 100,000 to a few 100 million. Nuclear energy is better than the fossil fuel energy we use today because it barely pollutes. And in the meantime, while we're waiting for a few decades for the next disaster of a nuclear meltdown to happen, coal and fossil fuels will have killed more people. And as our understanding of nuclear science increases, we can prevent more meltdowns from happening, which could save more lives. It is also cheaper, but every few decades there is going to be some sort of reactor meltdown that happens. And nuclear power plants are also very expensive to maintain, which could negate them being cheap. And if it does have a meltdown, lives are at risk, and, well, from a fire you can rebuild. From a tsunami, you can rebuild. From a nuclear power plant, you cannot step within the area of it for possibly hundreds of years. Tokyo Electric Company, I cannot pronounce that, but it has the largest nuclear power plant on Earth. Indiana is recently having discussions on making a nuclear power plant, and more countries are starting to pick them up, including India and Korea. It is safe to assume that in the coming years, nuclear energy will start to grow and become a better alternative over fossil fuel energy. Now, how does Godzilla work? Well, that's very easy. He simply works because